What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is of course Sugi here, and today we are going to be doing a bit of a preliminary review on Dragon Ball Gekishin Squadra on PC on Steam. It is also available on PlayStation 5, on mobile devices on both Android and iOS, and also to my understanding there's a cross-play feature, so you can play on PC while your friend is actually playing on PlayStation 5. Now, this game was originally launched in mid-September, and back then it got a bit of a mixed reviews, but when you actually look on Steam on the recent reviews, they are actually mostly positive. So I guess a lot of the recent changes that they have done to the game have improved the overall sentiment about the game's balance and how the game basically works out. And obviously I do have a lot of things to say about that in terms of the design choices. So as you can, probably assume, this is a MOBA game, but it's a very liberal take on it, as in there's a lot of changes and differences to our classical MOBA games that we have obviously covered over the years on the channel, whatever it's your Dotas and League of Legends. So it's a lot more casual game compared to basically almost anything that we have covered before. It works out as a 4v4 game. There's 2 lanes, there is towers, and then there is the base. And that's where a lot of the similarities are probably going to be ending. You don't have like minions pushing out on the lanes. Instead, you have random monsters scattered around the map, which you can basically kill, and those are going to be increasing your experience. One of the things that is probably positive about also this game that is using the WASD movement, so this is not click-based style of a thing, and obviously in case it's going to be available on other devices, I think this was basically a bit of a must in terms of design. And I'm sure that there's also controller support for the game, and in some ways I would argue maybe the controller is actually better than the mouse and keyboard, but everybody has their own preferences on what type of a setup they basically want to play in. Now the games actually last around maybe 12 to 11 minutes by average. I wish I would have some type of statistics to show you, but that is the average time. So it's a very fast-paced game. It doesn't really have like a long laning phase. It's about like kind of taking the objectives, which are bosses that appear on the map, and then pushing on the towers, and then eventually ending the game. Now, I'm, actually a bit of a fan of the gameplay because it's kind of fast-paced and it's not prolonging itself. It doesn't feel like, oh, we gotta spam surrender and end the game, or there's levers. There's nothing like that happening in this game, so that's a very positive thing I can say out of the get-go about this game. Now, there are definitely weird design choices and balance choices, so the way the pushing works is that there's the Zenon, which is obviously, people have watched Dragon Ball Super, is the kind of the supreme being of the whole universe, or the universes I would probably say, and that creature, or god, is going to be making the turrets like weak, and then when they're weak you can basically go into them and actually do damage in them. So you're not able to basically normally push the towers. It's basically an RNG system, which tower will become vulnerable and you can basically push forwards. And then on the last part you're gonna be having your Dragon Ball at the base, and basically when you destroy that, then you're gonna be winning the game. So it's pretty simple in terms of the victory conditions. But there are a couple of big problems here. Some people have said that when you're killing the other opponents, it doesn't really actually push the needle, so to speak, that much. So the objectives are a bit more important than fighting and skirmishing with the other enemies. And then obviously people are complaining about that the bases are basically paper. And I can actually attest to that. And that's a big problem about this game, as it's kind of like if people have played cops and robbers. Like when, you catch out the robbers, you take them to the base, but you have to actually protect the base, otherwise the robbers will come out and release everybody from the base. So that's basically the same in that sense, that there's this huge backdoor pressure in this game. Like in some other games, that is really hard to execute. Like you can't just like bang 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 destroy the base in League of Legends, even if you're really fed, or even in Dota. So, backdooring is not something that you can do very easily in other MOBA games. Here, it's really, really easy because the characters move very fast, so they can basically get into the other part of the map. Yes, there's a recall feature which allows you to get in the base and defend it, and that I think recall casting time is around 5 seconds, but that's a lot in this type of game, which is very fast-paced. So the fundamental problem is that I feel like so many games that I played, like we were winning, but then just the other enemy team, one player basically made it out to the enemy base and destroyed it in 2 seconds. So the bases are just way too weak. I don't think that they should be like super strong. I think the backdooring should be a feature, but there should be some type of a combat mechanic inside the game, which would allow you to, like in Dota, you can make the buildings invulnerable for like 3 seconds. There needs to be some type of feature which allows you to do some type of a counterplay at the base, because I don't think it's a very fun game mechanic that one person inside the game has to sit in the base to prevent the backdoor from happening. That's not a very fun game mechanic in any other MOBA game that I have ever played, and it's not fun here. And I think it's because it embraces a little bit inactive gameplay, which is not really fun, and it's just not like very rewarding style of gameplay in general. So that's probably the biggest problem of this game. Also, other thing is that a lot of the abilities are very strong. Some ultimates can basically take out your 80%, 50% of your health. And there's obviously balance differences. And balance differences has always been a thing. They always, oh, it's canonical that Goku is the strongest, so okay. But it's not really that fun in my opinion, where some of the characters like Krillin, probably the one that I played and feels the most weakest character in the whole game. I could be wrong about that, as I don't have the hundreds of hours as some people do, but I would probably argue that Krillin probably is like a D tier character in the game. But hey, if you're a pro player, let me know in the comment section below. But the balance is kind of all over the place, and that has kind of been a thing in a lot of Dragon Ball games, no question about it. Like, a lot of them. I don't remember playing one actual Dragon Ball game which felt like purely balanced, like where every the characters were like the same in terms of the damage output. This is not something that these games do. And there is obviously a lot of other elements inside the game, like there's progression mechanisms. Every character has their own like a leveling thing. There's a season pass. And obviously, there's also unlocking characters. Some of them, you know, the new characters, to my understanding, you actually have to wait till the next season starts in order to unlock them for free. Otherwise, you basically have to use money to buy them. Right now, there's 29 playable characters, which is not a very immense roster, but then again, it's a 4v4 game. So you might have duplicates on the game. Like if you pick up Piccolo, the other team can play Piccolo as well. So there's not any type of like a ranked draft mode, and the devs have basically said, based on my understanding, that they are not really planning to make it competitive game. It's like purely casual, so they say, well, you know, it's a casual game, so we can make things unbalanced and stuff like that. I don't think that's a good argument or anything, but maybe they have kind of changed the tone a bit, and there has been some balance changes into the game, and actually there was a new patch that basically dropped out, you know, like 2 days ago. So it's an interesting game. I think there's a lot of things that are actually appealing about it, because usually when I play MOBA games, I get burned out really, really fast, and I don't really want to play them again. Like, there are very few games which actually would consider playing now and then on a casual sense, and I think this game is actually not too bad. But maybe my biggest problem with the game is that there isn't really, for a game where there's a lot of, for a franchise, Dragon Ball is like has instant transmission, you have blinking, you have super traveling speeds and all that type of stuff, like a lot of things which allows you to travel very, very fast in the universe. But when you get into the combat, you're basically kind of, you know, locked into the battle, because there's not a lot of like disengage abilities where you can just like, hey, I'm gonna lose this fight, so I'm gonna escape. That's kind of hard, because you're not able to, as you're not really doing any attacks, the character starts to dash or go the flight mode. I don't know what it's exactly called. It's not something you can transform into if you are taking damage. So once you actually get into battle, you're kind of locked in. You're not able to disengage from the fight, so you're basically you're dying unless the enemy fucks up, or you have some type of support character which allows you to escape, or maybe you have one dash ability which allows you to disengage from the battle. This is actually the biggest problem that I have with the game. A lot of people have not mentioned it in their reviews, but I think that's the fundamental problem. Like, I want to disengage from the fights, and I have to be able to engage as well. So I think both of those are going to be true to in terms of the style of the game. But obviously it would be kind of harder to kill people. The towers heal you pretty well unless they are like vulnerable. So yeah, there are some issues in the game design in terms of like disengagement. Yes, you have this sort of a flash ability, sort of, which allows you to move backwards, forwards, but it has like cooldown of 4 seconds. So that can be used for escaping, but it's not like a pure escape ability. And I just wish that the game would introduce more like abilities that would inherently slow, or would be like doing CC in general. Just crowd control, which would maybe make it. I feel like there would be important to have some type of disengaging ability, or just everybody would have some type of inbuilt dash ability in the game. Now, in terms of other than that, I mean, it's pretty good. Obviously, I don't think they will ever do that because it's obviously a game on mobile, so I don't know, like the gameplay on mobile must be horrible. And some of it is like feels like very spammy, the abilities sometimes. There's cooldowns obviously in the game, especially in the ultimate. Ultimate has a very long cooldown, contrasted to how long is the game. So some of the abilities I believe have like 80-second cooldown or something even. That's pretty long. That's actually pretty long for a game that lasts 10 minutes. So you can't just spam ultimates all the time. But sometimes, like, there's not really a lot of like difficulty or technicalities in the actual combat, because it's just like who's going to be spamming the abilities first basically wins, or in a good position to basically spam the abilities where they can't run from them, because there's no counter abilities in the game. There's no barriers, there's no, you know, Zonayas, or there's no spell immunity. There's nothing like that in this game, right? So it's just gonna be like very damage output heavy style of a gameplay. And that's going to be okay for some people. Obviously, that's going to be dropping down the learning curve. You don't really need to learn a lot of those things. So it's what it is. It's going to be, some people are going to be like it, and some people are not going to be liking it. We also going to touch upon, obviously, on the progression systems. There is a season pass also in the game, and there's a free version to that, and there's a paid version of that. In terms of the prices in the game, I don't think that they were like ridiculously too high or anything like that. But the skins in the game actually are not really that amazing in my opinion, because compared to some of the other games, I would not probably waste any money in them, to be fair. And some of the skins, you know, I think the base cost is like 250, so that basically is like what we're talking about, quite a high. We're talking about like $5 per skin, so there's nothing, to my understanding based on my browsing, nothing cheaper on the selection than that. So yeah, I think there's a bit of a problem on the pricing, and that's kind of like something that tends to happen with a lot of MOBAs. Like, either you have to have a lot of players and then you can afford to do a bit more affordable skins, or you're just going to be just relying on the whales to basically buy expensive stuff inside the game when they're playing. And I think in terms of the characters, I think, you know, you have a lot of your fan favorites. A lot of fan favorites are missing from the game, and there has been a bit of a focus on getting some of the newer characters in, like Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are here. Topo is in the game, but like a lot of the classic ones are missing, like Tien, Yamcha, Chaozu, like even like I don't, Boo doesn't even have all the forms in the game. So there's a lot of that, and I don't think there's any single GT character also in the game. So there's definitely characters that could be added in the future. I think they have added around 4 characters since the launch, which would basically indicate like what was it, like 1 character per month? That is not too bad of a release schedule, to be honest. But then again, like, these characters are not as complex. Yes, they do have a bit of a different playstyle, different ability sets. So I wouldn't say one character is an absolute clone of another. But in terms of, because they're not doing very elaborate, it's just like usually a dash ability, and then there's some type of beam and projectiles, and maybe a transformation. I would argue that the development cycle for one character is definitely lower than it is in something like Dota or League of Legends. So, but yeah, I don't know in terms of the player base, is it actually growing, or how big of it is in mobile and etc. But I think it's an okay game. It's an okay game, and right now we don't really have, with Supervive even closing, there's not really a lot of MOBA games to play. If you don't want to play League or Smite or Dota, your options are very, very low as a PC player. Yes, there's some in mobile obviously, but there isn't really that many other games to try out, or other games in the making, so to speak. So the genre is kind of dead, or not as popular, and there's many reasons for that. It's just the logistics, and you just can't, there's not enough gamers in the world to go around and populate every single live service game. So I don't know how long the cycle of this game will be, but in terms of the ratings, at least, we can say that those are looking good, and maybe the game will run for a year or 2, and then they might stop supporting it. But that basically is my thoughts about the game. maybe in the future they are going to be introducing like ranked mode and maybe additional modes. There's not really a lot of variety per game. Yes, there's like these random traits can be rolled into the game, which makes it different. So, but those are not exactly changing the gameplay that much drastically. I don't know if there's any competitive tournaments for the game, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they're gonna be doing for the future and how long they're gonna be planning to support this. Obviously, Bandai is a big company, so they can afford to maybe, you know, support a live service game a bit longer. And it's interesting that they decided to do a game like this. But all things considered, we have seen so many attempts on the MOBA genre, and most of them just have failed. And this is actually a reasonably okay attempt. The graphics are good. There's no frame rate issues. There is no IP issues. Ping issues. I mean, so in terms of like gameplay, everything is there. And also you have the Japanese dub available and the English dub. And the Japanese dub seems to have all the original voice actors, which is good. So that's a plus. But thanks for watching, guys. If you have tried the game, please let me know. What do you think about it? Will you play it again? And do you have hopes for the future? Thanks for watching. I will be seeing you in the next video. Cheers.